We are live. Hello and welcome everyone in this call. This is a great pleasure for me to have Leandro with us today. And for those of you that doesn't know me yet, hello, Eliton. Welcome. The event will probably take around 45 minutes to 1 hour, Eliton. So feel free, and then it will be recorded. So don't worry about this, okay? And for those of you who don't know me, my name is Harold. I'm the CEO of Metanoia Digital, which is a company dedicated to bring digital disruption to several corporations. I've been working with Rockwell Automation, Renault, Cisco itself in the past. So there are many companies that were our client or that I was doing some kind of innovation work. And we have been working globally, most recently going to Asia. But most of our work is done here in Brazil and Latin America. But we work globally, especially because of the pandemics, you know, and it opens so many doors to so many people, right? And Innovation Exchange, this program that you're watching or listening, is all about how do we deal with innovation in different places. In the past, we had Martin Bayer, who is a great friend of mine from Germany, and we were talking about the differences, how design that was born in Germany, how it impacts the innovation culture in Germany, how this excellence-driven culture impacts their product development and all this. And today, I have this very special guest, Leandro Barbeita, a good old friend from some work here in Brazil that we did together. Leandro is currently in the Silicon Valley. I'm in Brazil, so we have like 4 or 5 hours difference from time zones. But I'll let Leandro introduce himself. But something that is really special for me, Leandro, is your role in LinkedIn. It's very unusual, at least for me. You know, I have never seen it before. You know, I don't know if that's something like Cisco thing or is a really common like role in big corporations. And I would love if you could start by explaining that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, it's a pleasure, Harold. You mentioned that our first work was in Brazil, but in fact, I do remember that you shared a picture in your LinkedIn about a trip that you had to Berlin.
Exactly.
I was there. I was there in that picture.
Exactly. That was our first meeting. Exactly. Awesome.
Good. So I've been working in the tech industry for 20 years, and I think I can slice it up those 20 years. Like the first 7 years, I was working more with open source. I was working in a Linux distribution in Brazil. And after that, I worked with geographic information systems, usually, I think for 7 years too, so 14. And then the last 8 years, 7 years, I don't know, I've been working for Cisco. And first, I was in Brazil. I was first as an overall program manager of the innovation center that we had in Brazil. And then I became the leader of that innovation center. And then I moved to the US 3 years ago. And yes, my role in US since the beginning, since I moved to the US, it is related to product readiness, and which is really connected to how we scale anything that you're going to put in the market, anything that you're going to offer to the market. When it comes to companies like Cisco, or I would say even any giant, any large company, when you think about launching something, you need to move a lot of parts. So, and that's our role. My role is to support the product management organization to successfully launch those products. So this is product readiness.
Wow, that's pretty cool. I've never heard of it, but it makes perfect sense for me.
Look, we were discussing this a couple of months ago. I don't know if this is a role that exists in other companies. Okay. I really don't know, but it is what we are doing. it is what we are doing. The effort to launch a product in a company like Cisco, it's huge, and it's huge, and it's like the first talks that we had, like the first discussion that we had. It is different from something that you are incubating and you are looking for the right business model in order. Okay, now I got it. It is different. Everything is huge. So when you talk about how many, when you talk about the plans, the strategy, even for the limited availability, man, it's huge. So I think I could bet money that in other companies, if they don't have the title, they will have someone doing that. I could bet money on that.
Of course. And that's a good starting point for our discussion here, because, we usually look at innovation, and most of companies that are like the role models for innovation and that we try to adapt are probably, or we usually study their startup phase, and we know no startup wants to be a startup the rest of their life, and it's actually a phase. It's a business phase. It's not like forever and ever I'll be a startup. And it's completely different to start a company. Let's say Brex, which is a very famous case, one of the biggest fintech in the world, built by Brazilians back in the Silicon Valley, and they didn't have much to lose when they acquired so many billboards in the Bay Area, and they had the chance to improve the product along the way, because they were still building their community, their traffic, their customers, and all this visibility and all this stuff. But Cisco don't, you have like, I don't know, millions of customers, right? All over the world, huge corporations. So once you talk about one product, okay, there's a new product. You probably have like a list of people waiting for it. You have thousands and thousands of companies calling and whatever, your commercial guys discussing and all this. You already have the traffic, which is really the challenge for small companies that are starting, right? And how do you deal with that? Exactly. I believe that's exactly your spot there. We are launching a product. There will be lines for people to acquire it, right? That's one of the difference that I see.
Yeah, it is a challenge. It is a challenge, and the reason for that is when you think about, look, if you think about a product that already exists, if you are planning to deliver a new business model using that product, I mean, you already have an install base. You already have probably a large amount of customers. And you need to, and you are developing something that will bring some kind of disruption to that product. And the tricky here is because in the same time that when you are thinking about the development, so going back to the basics, going back to the incubation, going back to the customer development process, the customer validation process from bank, when you go back to the basics, you are doing experimentation, you are doing iteration cycles, you are going to validate your ideas, your business model, all the 9 blocks and all of that stuff. You are in that mindset. And at the same moment, you are also in the mindset of, okay, how many countries we're gonna deliver that? I'm not talking about one country, obviously, and bear with me on this. I support a very specific group in Cisco. Cisco is huge. There are several products that are being developed right now, and so I support just a small subset of those. And for those offers, yes. When we decided which country, is not okay, let's start with US. Usually it's, no, we cannot start only with the US. You need to start US, Canada. Oh, you cannot, you need to have some support in Europe, some support in Asia Pac. So, and then you end up with your limited availability with 6 countries, 6 currencies, or sometimes no, but 6 currencies. You think about supply chain for those countries, and you think about, and then this is a huge process, and in the type of mindset that you apply to those are different. When you think about incubation, you are more in a complex environment. What I mean by that is that you don't know what you're gonna do, and yes, you don't know what, and you don't know how. So you are understanding, you are evaluating. And for the other part, no, as soon as we define this is what you're gonna deliver, man, then you need to support by, you need to play by the rules, because there is all the things, that all the ops things, all the financial things, all the legal stuff, and that stuff, they are less adjustable. I will not say adaptable, because I would say, at least for the ones that I have been working with, they are as adaptable as much of the development teams that I've been working with. So it's a matter of the difference of the context. The context in the incubation part is more complex. The context in the scaling part becomes a little bit, needs to be more predictable. And I'm using needs to be, because it is not always like this. I mean, it is a challenge. It is a real challenge. And I think this is the reason that it is so fun.
Yeah.
Because it is a challenge.
But does that means, Leandro, that we are kind of like in corporate innovation, or like big companies, we need to ditch this minimum viable mindset, MVP or something like this? We need to forget that? Or is it possible to like work around it? I don't know.
That's a good question. But I would say, I would tell you, is that it's not a matter of forgetting about. It's a matter of understanding that the boundaries are blur. So that's the thing. And you need to be able to switch the context back and forth. There is a part of your time, it is thinking about, in an incubation mindset, you need to think about, okay, what it is, let's validate with customers. It's a different mindset. And then, okay, we define it. Now, how are we going to scale? How are we going to make the company ready for what we have just validated with our customers and partners? Then it is a different context. And then you need to put together different tools in place. So it's not a matter of forgetting about. It is a matter of understanding that it is not linear. It's blurred. The boundaries blur.
Okay. And how much difference or maybe similarity are there between your current role and your previous role with the Innovation Center? Because I remember from the Innovation Center, we were mostly like validating with customer, mostly this incubation phase, at least for the time I was with you guys, working on our projects. But how much is it like kind of like a journey? You come out of a process like incubation with an innovation center or something like that, then you come to scalability and product readiness, and would that be considered like a journey inside the company for the product?
That they are different. They are different. In the innovation center, our role was, we had all the Cisco products and solutions, and on top of the Cisco products and solutions, we had a very solid API based API set of a set of APIs that allow developers and specific niche companies to develop products on top of Cisco platform. So in the Innovation Center, I was working more with startups outside Cisco, companies that are vertical specialists outside Cisco, and then how they use our products and APIs to extend that product, and then we can offer to customers in a more specific ways. So, and because of that, we were working in verticals like education, public safety and security, healthcare, because not our products remain the same. So we had our core, our infrastructure, but because of the APIs that we are providing, we can extend the power of our platforms with those products. So that's what we were doing in Innovation Center. When I moved to the US, I decided, this is the reason that I moved to the US. It is because I was going to the business entity. I want to develop the core product. So
Okay.
if
Cool.
the innovation center I was using and receiving all the things that those guys were doing, now I am doing for the guys that will use after that.
Okay. Okay. Cool. And how was this transition in two parts? Let's say technology and methodology from one side that is using your own products as a platform to improve your solutions and all this, and then creating it, which is completely different. You already spoke. But also from a cultural perspective, because that's one of our goals here with the podcast and this webinar, is to really understand cultural differences in innovation and how they affect innovation, And so I would love to hear that.
Okay, let me start with the cultural part.
Okay.
And I'm sorry if I will disappoint you, because I mean we already discussed that stereotypes of Brazilians are more flexible, Americans are more rigid, and vice versa, not vice versa, but that's the stereotype. I think those are that stereotypes, and because I'm finding here a lot of people that are flexible by nature. I mean, and in fact, when I was working in Brazil, I worked with several, companies that were really disciplined. So I know I'm not. It was hard for me because I was expecting that. To be honest, I was expecting that. I was expecting this difference, and it was not what I found.
Okay.
But what I did find was the way that the Americans communicate reflects. I mean, the way that we communicate reflects the way that we think.
Okay.
And they communicated in a pragmatic way, in a differently from us Latin Brazilians. I would say Brazilians. I do have some work with Latin America, but most of my work was with Brazil. So we tend to be more relationship focused and more and try to always tell stories.
Okay.
Americans are way more pragmatic. So
Okay.
let me give an example. If you ask me again this question, what is the difference between Brazilians and Americans? I would say communication is a different. We communicate in a different ways. And usually what I'm going to do is that I will stop. I will shut up. If you want to know more information, you're going to ask, tell me more about it. And then I give you a little bit more information about it. Oh, we are more, storytelling approach. Our approach is more storytelling. You guys go direct to the problem, and you prefer to receive the punchline first. And then I will shut up again.
Okay.
And only if you no. Tell me more. Now I'm gonna tell the story. It's because blah blah blah. We have the Latin, roots, and because of that, I don't know. Then I will develop the argument. But we always start. So that's a different. That was a different. And and this reflects in everything that we do. So and all the discussions, all the presentations, at least I can say for sure for the initiative that I've been working with, we try as much as we can to be completely focused on this way of doing. So, and then for me was a challenge because I was more a storytelling approach. I need to change a lot of the way that I explain and discuss, and so that for me was a different. And that I would say for if I in fact, every time that I received a question from someone in Brazil that, okay, how it is, what would you tell me if I want to apply for a company? Or I would say, look, that's a very specific difference. That's a very specific difference. Your communication, the way that you organize your thoughts, and the way that you articulate your thoughts, they are more pragmatic. So I think they would appreciate if you absorb this part of the culture.
Okay. Hey, it's funny that you mentioned that because I see a much bigger success on the storytelling industry in the US than in Brazil. We have Hollywood. We have like so many books and stuff coming out of the US and not as much from Brazil. But I think it's a different approach, as you mentioned. We I think we tell stories to go around, and create a relationship, and then get to
And then get to the point.
exactly.
Yeah.
Instead of going straight to the point and then creating a story around it. I see that difference.
Yeah, but you mentioned a very good point. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. They do have good storytellers. However, in a
Yeah, but their
day,
marketing approach is so amazing, right?
right? In a day-by-day basis, in the meeting, problem solving discussions, strategic, the way that we try to, and please, I'm always saying that we try, because this is an exercise. Don't get me wrong and understanding, oh, they are all like this and they do all of that thing. This is humans are not like that. But we try to do that. We try to do as most pragmatic as we can. And I learned to do that. I learned that this is the way. And in fact, I need to tell, I'm now appreciating that.
The time I spent in the US, that was something I loved. We went straight to the point. We went to meetings. It was like, let's solve this and that's done, and meetings were way quicker than in Brazil. In Brazil, we always get to a talk or something like that, especially now with the video conferencing. Oh, right. How are you? Is it cold in your city? How, blah, 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 blah. And it's kind of like boring,
Yeah, I kind of like and we do that. I need to tell you, we do mix a lot, especially because it is good to have a little bit of bounding among the team members, and because this is what we are. I mean, we are humans above all. We are trying to develop a new product, and that's all of that stuff. But in the end, we are humans, so it's good to have boundings with them.
That's nice. That's nice. So about technology and methodology, what were the key differences?
Look, one of the things that I saw that really is not surprising me, but I'm really glad. It is the focus on the customer. And this could be, and I'm using that. I'm trying to avoid as much as I can the words and the jargon and all of that stuff. But essentially is that trying to the focus on the customer. Don't need to rely on methodologies like design thinking and Canvas, sprints. Those are all tools, and they have their place, and we use them. Don't get me wrong. I came from the startup Cisco initiative. I have a friend of mine in my team that was the leader of the design thinking in Cisco. I have all the other guys that had different experience, but also with a design thinking background. So we use that. But those are all tools. The most important thing for us is not using the tool. So we don't have in our framework that we mandate people to, okay, develop your canvas. Go for, give me your jobs to be done. No, we translate that. We use all the concepts, but our focus is tell me the customer outcomes.
Okay.
And even if we don't, even if we are talking about a scale solution that it is also already in the market, that we are just developing something new on top of this solution, doesn't matter. The base, the foundation of everything that we do needs to start with the customer outcomes. And this is a very good challenge, because especially for companies that are well established in the market, because if you are well established in the market, what is going to happen? You probably think you know. So, and probably you're right. I mean, I'm talking, if you go back to Cisco is the leader for I don't know how many years. But if you are inserting something new, if you are delivering something new in the market, you need to go back and understand if you are really delivering something that it is addressing customer outcomes. And you need to have this in mind and ask this question all the time through the cycle. So that's for me the difference. In the US, I saw much more focus on the core concept, customer outcomes. And when I was in Brazil, I was more focused. And yes, I will say that, and then I will do a disclaimer. I was seeing more the use of methodology to achieve that customer outcomes, not that much the car concept. So, and I think it's a thing of maturity. And again, I could only say about the opportunities that I was involved. It is really hard to generalize and say Brazil was doing that.
Yeah.
I will not commit this mistake.
Or even Cisco,
even Cisco, I cannot commit this mistake. It's too. I mean, yes, the environments are too big, so you can only say for the small amount of reality that you're touching.
But it makes perfect sense. I always bring to my innovation lectures and all this. I always ask the people that are listening, how many surveys have you fulfilled from Apple? People who have an iPhone or anything like that. You don't. How many times have you seen or had someone from Apple called you and do an interview with you, to fill their empty map canvas or whatever? You don't. You're simply focused on the customer from several other ways. And we see, why is Apple always at the forefront? Why is always Cisco at the forefront of what they're doing? Because they're listening to the customer with other tools, other ways. We have data, we have analytics right now. You just mentioned about.
And I would say to you, across the board, from the senior leadership to the guys that are working directly with partners, customers, we collect all of that stuff, and we need. And it is a challenge. I'm not trying to. It is always a challenge, but that's the way. It is not that much the use of methodology, but the core concept is there. We need to listen to them, understand what are their outcomes, what they want to achieve, what is the end result for them. Then we need to decide which capabilities we're going to develop. It is interesting because every time that I also discuss with someone, they bring back that sentence or that sentence saying, oh, Ford, when he developed the car, he did not ask the customers because otherwise they will tell him that they would like faster horses. That's right. Because you don't ask which capability I will develop for you. You don't ask that. It is your role. You are a tech company. You decide the capability. But you can ask the outcomes. What do you want to achieve? What do you want to do with your business? What is your plan? That's a value ask. And with that knowledge, then you come up to your team and develop the right capabilities to achieve that outcome.
Of course, I will go back a little bit to the cultural thing, because Jose Barsi just did a question. Americans don't like the Brazilian storytelling approach. Did you have a trouble with that at some point? I don't know, someone who got to a meeting.
Barsi. So for me is Barsi. He is a very good friend. Yeah, he's a very good friend of mine from the time that I was working with open source. Look, for most of the problem-solving calls, meetings, discussions that I've participated, I will tell you that our Brazilian storytelling style is not the most appropriate one. Okay. Again, please, it is this amount of I cannot make a generalization, but most of the times, yes, you need to switch a little bit. There is a very good book. For those of you there is a very good book that I used to learn a little bit. It calls the pyramids, the pyramid method from I think it's Barbara. I will get the name here and I send to you guys. It is very good because she's from McKinsey, and she tells exactly that you, and I usually do that when I'm writing an email. I'm typing all of that stuff and blah blah blah, and then I stop and usually I do that. I saw my last sentence and I move to the first one because I switch back and I say my punchline is this, and then I organize. So for this problem solving, Barcy, I will tell you, yes, I would switch the approach.
Okay, cool. Now going back to customer outcomes. What are their outcomes? What are customers looking for right now? Cisco customers, people working with digital transformation. I know this is the hot topic right now for many companies. I don't know if that's a good question also. Is that like a hot topic in the US also? Or is something like from European companies or Brazilian companies?
It is. No, it is. It is. You can search, but it is a good topic. It is a good topic, obviously, because it is a good topic because you need to switch from the output driven. What I mean by that is what we are developing, what you are delivering. Oh, I'm delivering this router or this server with this features, technical features. Perfect. What those features allow your customer to do. Perfect. So this will perform the capabilities, and those capabilities, what is the end result if our customers use those capabilities? What is the end result for them? So you need to think about the outcomes. You need to think about the end result. You need to think, for instance, if you think about networking, you think about availability, you think about performance, you think about lowering the managing costs, you think about onboarding devices, you think about securing devices. So when you think about that, and that's the good point that I would like to make. The only guys that I can really discuss outcomes are the guys that really knows the customers and the problems. So every time that just for you to know, when we start discussing that and we put together what are the outcomes of this new whatever that we are developing, usually the first round come from the product management team. And one of the things that we usually do is bringing the go-to-market team for that discussion. We need to bring those guys that will be to the customers and because they are the ones that really are talking with those customers in a daily basis. They understand what they are trying. So we are talking about large customers, medium customers, segments, what they are trying to do. So those things, those end results needs to drive the development, and not that we are developing this new version of router that provides blah, 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 this feature, that performance. That's good. This is the basics. That's the foundation, but could not be driven by this. We need to change the foundation. The foundation needs to be the outcomes. What are the end results that our customers are expecting? And this is for incubation, and this is for scaling. This is for everything. If you don't have the proper conversations about customer outcomes at the beginning, I could bet money that you're going to have this conversation after launch. That's it. We decide when you want to have these conversations.
Good point.
You're going to have this conversation.
Good point, Leandro. And I remember when I was part of another organization working with you guys from Cisco, we are like very strong proponents of this idea that products are just like service renderers, and there's a full
remember.
Yeah, philosophical business stuff from like service dominant logic and all this. That was really our approach. And now you're telling me it's kind of like this switch is changing inside Cisco. You're looking mostly for the customer outcomes, not so much for the products itself. right?
I could definitely tell you that.
Okay.
That, I think, it is one of the few answers that I could tell. I could definitely tell you that Cisco is across the board looking more for outcomes in all the divisions. Although I'm not working, like I said, although I'm not working on all of those divisions, I could tell you that. And I will tell you, because you mentioned the industry in itself, it is talking way more about outcomes, way more about them. And I suspect that most of this is related to the shift, the transition from an asset economy from a consumption-based economy. And with the as a service, I suspect, but obviously I don't have, I'm not a researcher on that area, but I can tell you that from the trenches, that is what I'm seeing.
And that's actually also an outcome from the digital revolution that we're living, because digital is all about the service, right? You have one click to do anything, and I believe all the economy is changing, customer behavior is changing towards that,
Yeah, and you mentioned one point. There is a very important trend that says, yes, outcomes. Like I'm not canceling what I said. Outcomes they are absolutely important, but today in as a service world, outcomes without experience, they are kind of useless.
Of course, perfect.
They are kind of useless because yes, it is important that you are addressing the what our customers are and what are the end results of our customers, and what are the capabilities that you're offering to them. However, you need to think also how they're going to use those capabilities, the experience that we're going to have. And not only the experience using the product, the experience going through all the customer journey cycle. It is two different experiences. I'm not talking about UX experience only. Yes, it is 100% important, but also all the steps, how they get informed about our products, how they evaluate your products, how they purchase your product, how they install, and all of that, adopt, renew, expand, all of that stuff.
Yeah, you probably remember that we had a new acronym, and I'm also working with a new acronym here with my customers. That is the minimum valuable experience, because you cannot rely anymore just only on the product. You need to think broadly.
I heard also appropriate experience. Yes. Because
exactly.
it's absolutely important. So much so as the outcomes. You cannot detach those two concepts.
And right now, I think that's really cool to say to our audience. Digital has something really crazy that is going on with digital, is that people are now buying stuff according to the stars. You get to Amazon, you purchase a book or anything according to the stars. You buy a wine according to the stars. How people review and evaluate that product, and that is happening in all industries. So the customer experience become the new market. The marketing. Because you don't have to promote anymore your product. You simply need to have such a good experience that in any platform that the user can access your service, once they see your stars, they will be willing to buy.
And not only that, Harold, and if you think how we are translating this, you need to insert in the product the capabilities for the product to be the journey. So it's almost like you don't have more the boundaries, right? That this is the product, this is the journey. The product is the journey. That's a tricky one.
Exactly. Awesome. And I remember back then, I don't know if that's.
I think we have a question here. Obviously, yes, I'm biased. It is a huge friend.
From Victor,
I'm honored to have those guys here. I know that it is almost 8:30, 8:40 right now in Brazil.
Yes.
Here in the US, it is the holidays, Memorial Day. So thank you. I'm really honored to have you guys. And yes, I mentioned financial, Victor. I mentioned financial. I mentioned legal, because we do have all of those teams participating in the innovation team. And I need to tell something. When it comes to as a service, financial and legal are not support functions anymore. Financial and legal in as a service, they have as much as the other areas like sales, partners, ops. They do have to develop their own capabilities. They do have a lot to develop through the development cycle. So they are not support functions that then, for instance, you put together a RACI and say, oh, I'm gonna let those guys informed. No, they are responsible and they are accountable for several parts during the development. And just for you to know, Victor, in one of most of the products that we are working with, at least I am working with, financial and legal, they are part since the beginning. Since they are not the ones that know the outcomes, they are there, but they are there to listen. They are there to listen. The guys from the TMEs, the technical market experts, the sales experts, those engineers, to come and say, those are the outcomes that our customers are expecting, because they need to develop the muscle when it comes to the development, their own capabilities to understand what are the end result that we are looking for. Hope that this answers your question.
Awesome, Leandro. Does that means like you have on your work, I don't know how you organize those teams? Is it like this common like agile way with squads, multidisciplinary, etc., or something much broader? Or I don't know how you organize those teams.
That's good, because every time that we think about this, there is a word for that. This is governance. There are several ways right now in the market. There are several proposals for the best organization to scale a solution like I was describing. So far, I will not tell you that I know what is the playbook. There is no playbook for that. Okay. So agile methodologies for the incubation phase and for one single team, they are 100% perfect for that situation. When you need to scale that and you need to include teams that are not software developers, but they will develop a capability. So for instance, if you are supporting several countries, several currencies, in different supply chain organizations, those teams will need to develop their own processes. They need to update at least their processes. So they will be developing something. And it is really hard to apply those, by the book methodology. You know what? Let's use Scrum by Scrum zones. Let's use SAFe. It is hard. So again, we are not that much concentrated on the methodologies. Oh, yeah. But what we do is to make sure that we have layers of influence that with representatives from all the functions. So we do have a layer of representatives from the senior leaders of all the functions that we use when we have a barrier that could not be solved by us, that we need their approval, for instance. Okay. We have a layer of representatives that are cross-functional by nature, and we kind of organize ourselves in this how can I say, in this, I would say this team. I would not even try to use another different word. It's team. It's a cross-functional team that we put together, and we have the specific teams that are performing the tasks that they go bring up to the core team to discuss the problems, and we are the ones that orchestrate. And this is one of the words that we use internally. In fact, it is interesting because the orchestration metaphor brings the picture that we are, everybody is playing their instrument and everything. It is perfect, and it is not like this, but we try to. The intention is that. The intention is that you orchestrate several groups of people towards a common goal. And for that, we use this governance cycles. We have senior leaders, we have leaders, we have the teams that are performing the tasks, and we need to have constant communication throughout these teams. But we don't use, I haven't used any other. I do know that in Cisco there are teams that are experimenting with Scrum by Scrums and Safety and other ones, but we are not. For the ones that I've participated, we are not.
Okay. It must be like a real challenge, right? When you have like so many countries to launch a product and all this, it becomes so massive, right? And for me, it's a little bit weird. I'm kind of like used with agile methodologies, but when I look at Scrum of Scrums and Safe, it kind of like loses me, you know, because it feels that it's so heavy, you know, and it's not agile as I think it is. You know, I have seen a lot of companies having problem introducing those kind of methodologies in such large scope as you guys have. But now, Leandro, you have been saying a lot about as a service, you know, and we started probably with software as a service, you know, the SaaS movement that was so powerful in 2010 or something like that, you know, and coming since now. But now we're talking about infrastructure as a service, platform as a service. Then there's SaaS with everything as a service, you know, and that's a really powerful transition that we're having, right? And I always say, and that was something that I listened from another speaker that was so impactful for me, is that when you put cloud computing into anything, it completely transformed this industry. You know, you put cloud computing inside education, and then you have like a massive movement of transforming education and all this. And SaaS and AAS as a service is kind of like empowered by cloud computing. And I want you to tell us a little bit, what do you see as future trends for as a service? How is that impacting you? You already spoke that it's impacting a lot Cisco, but what can we foresee for the future? You know, and how different industries that you've been working with, you see that are going to be transformed by it?
Yeah, look. Well, the first thing that I'm working with, it is this: if the scaling part of innovation, there is no playbook for that. There is no playbook for business agility. So you need to tweak by your own reality. Mm-hmm. I would say that for SaaS, for as a service, there is also no playbooks yet. The playbook, it is yet to be written. And what I mean by that is no one figured it out a way to transition something that was not as a that was not developed as a service, but to the services economy, and solve the profit problem. So, and I will not, obviously, I'm not the financial guy to go to that part, but it is important to understand. And every time that we think, this is something that the leaders are always concerned about, because if in a CapEx world you receive the amount of for your product at the beginning of the cycle, as a service, this amount that is split through several months, sometimes years, and in order for you to get the same amount here, you're going to need to have a very large customer base of as a service customer. So it is here in the US, I don't know if you heard about, but there is an expression. I do believe that is common expression right now. It is swallow the fish, because there is a chart showing that the amount of revenue that you're going to have and the amount of cost that you're going to have, that sounds like a fish. And you need to swallow that fish in order to start to get the benefits of an as a service offer. That's so. First of all, that's the most important thing, and I think this is a topic for leaders, how they are organizing the companies to do this transition.
And I'm sorry to interrupt you, but that also reinforced the thing that we were discussing about the customer journey and the customer experience, because you have to have such a better customer experience to make sure this guy will be with you along the lifetime value. 100%. To close to make it like a positive account, right? So it's really
100%. Without experience, you could have a very good capability, but if the experience is bad, they will look for a bad experience. That's it. But let me try to answer the other part, that is the more the tactical. I think is good.
I'm sorry.
No, the tactical part. When you think about as a service, I will use the answer that I gave to Victor. Look, think about Cisco. We sell routers. When we sell a router, this router become yours. It is your asset. You put a tag in your asset and you put in your box. How do you think it happens when the hardware is still Cisco's? So I'm delivering to your house, to your company, sorry for that, to your company. You are using it, but the ownership of this asset is not yours. It is mine. So, and then this is the reason, and I will go back again. This is the reason that financial, legal, they are not support functions in this reality, because we need to think who's gonna claim the ownership of the asset. Let me give you an example. If there is, for any reason, they put in a data center, the data center got flooded or got fired. Who's the owner? Who's the responsibility? So all of those, I'm extrapolating and giving examples, but just for you to know, this asset transfer, this is a contract. So everything needs to be binding in a legal terms and conditions, and those things. And obviously we cannot. If you transform this in a legal, discussion, then you're gonna end up with no customers, because no one wants to spend their minutes reading legal terms and conditions. But that's the reality. We need to balance. All of this. So, in moving forward, as much as we see all the things that right now, I heard that in Brazil, Reserva is now providing T-shirt as a service.
Yeah.
It is amazing, because they put together a sustainability cycle, and now you use the shirt. When you are done with the shirt, you give me back the shirt. So the reverse supply chain is solved, and then I give you back money, or I give you back another shirt. You can see, but they need to think, who is the owner of the shirt? What is going to happen if the shirt gets cut, or I don't know. But I could bet money that those guys are thinking, and they need to think and they need to do the balance between what is profitable and what would provide a good experience, and they need to find a balance in order to become a sustainable business. That's the tricky part, and it's not easy. And what I mean by it's not easy, and the tricky part is because we need to have those conversations with everybody, with representatives for all the teams. And this is the reason that I told you, I don't know if it is in the other companies, they have titles like product readiness or orchestrators, but I could bet money that they are doing that, because there is no way around. Having those, putting all of those parties to discuss and come to an agreement towards a goal, I could bet money that there is someone doing that.
Yeah. That's amazing, because I'm a super fan of this as a service revolution, let's say like this, because it's a really powerful revolution in many across sectors or industry segments. But I have never seen from this optics that you're showing. I've never thought of it, actually, and it's so powerful. So complicated. When you start to realize, it's so complicated.
It is, and that's the reason of, and this is because this is the reason that it is so much fun, because it is complicated. It's complicated. No, there is no playbook on that.
Of course,
there is no playbook. You cannot buy a book, and you cannot buy a training and transform it. I'm not seeing And I'm reading a lot. I mean, you know me.
Yeah,
I'm not saying.
and it's funny. Sometimes when we are the customer, we just think, "Oh, it's so cool, and they're so smart, and all this." But once you need to to produce, you're the one building the
Yeah.
stuff. It's a completely different mindset.
Yeah, that is. It is. It is.
Amazing, amazing. So, Leandro, for us to finish our talk, everybody talks about Silicon Valley, and the innovation culture. And if we look in the history, Cisco is one of let's say we have HP, Fairchild, Intel, Apple, and then we have Cisco in the story of Silicon Valley. How is this a reality? This collaborative culture inside Silicon Valley, inside Cisco, and how is Cisco relating with other players in the digital transformation landscape? Because I see you guys are in an acquisition spree. It was 3 acquisitions two weeks ago, cybersecurity and all this. But also for you, the person Leandro, how going to Silicon Valley affected you in this way? Collaborative and all this.
Yeah. So okay, let's go first for I'm not anymore in the incubation division for Cisco, so I'm not working closely to the acquisition team and the incubation teams as I was when I was the leader of the innovation center. But you are right. I mean, Cisco has a phenomenal team that is doing that, and I'm working with some of those companies that we have acquired in the past, and now we are integrating in some forms. And I mean, in this projects that I'm working now, I had the pleasure to work with some vendors, and it is amazing to see that this. First of all, the pragmatism, like I said, they are all it is for real. It is not a Cisco thing. It is for real. I have friends in other companies. I have friends in Apple. I have friends in Amazon. I have friends in NVIDIA, and kind of the way of doing is pretty much the same. I mean, first of all, the accelerated pace, it is across the board.
Okay.
Absolutely across the board. So I think personally, this is one of the things that changed. In Brazil, I organized my day in an hour's time slot. In the US, I'm working in 30 minutes time slot. And there was time that we were working with 15 minutes time slot. Okay. So, and you heard that Elon Musk is the one that do this in 2 minutes, 5 minutes. I don't know. Yeah. I can't imagine the craziness, but it's real. It is real. If you block 1 hour, you need to have 1 hour of things to discuss, because then immediately the person will ask you, couldn't we do this in 30 minutes? Couldn't we do this in 15 minutes? Because the pace is like this. So that was the first thing. The second thing, as already mentioned, the communication part, of course, was it still is. Sorry, I don't get me wrong. It still is a challenge. I'm always learning. I will always be an ESL. We call English as a second learners. Oh, and we have a lot of jokes internally about this. Obviously, I have a lot of jokes about this. And but there is one difference, and obviously in the US, and I think you know that, but in the US, the families are not that close. So the father and the parents are not living close to their kids, and not living close to the grandparents. And in Brazil, mostly we are more connected. So my mom lived in a different neighborhood, but it's about 40 minutes to go there. My brother, the same. Even if I have friends that were living in São Paulo where I was in Rio, it's a matter of 45 minutes, right? So and that's the difference. That's, for me, is the difference. Because we don't have that, then we have the community. The community in the US are really strong. So you get you start to develop a relationship with your neighborhoods. You start to develop a relationship with the fathers of your son's friend, because it is, and everybody supports each other, because we don't have family.
Cool.
So that was the part. And obviously, I do miss a lot my family and my times in Brazil, but that's the tricky part here. You need to learn how to live in a situation like this, and so far so good.
Okay, awesome. So we got to our 1 hour time slot. Thank you so much, Leandro. I cannot thank you enough. It was such an amazing discussion. Congratulations for your journey, your career, and everything you're building inside Cisco. I hope to hear more from you and all these products. Once those products are on the streets, please let us know.
Thank you. I do know. I do thank you for sure. For sure, it was a pleasure, Harold. I hope this. I hope that we develop the conversation in a way that you were thinking about. I mean, I hope that this informal way of touching the topics was exactly what you were looking for. And my friend, like I said, you were a friend for a long time. It's always a pleasure.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for the audience. It was amazing. For you guys that don't know, this recording will be available in YouTube, and then I will send it to the podcast. Any platform that you prefer, you can listen to it. And make sure that you follow myself at Harold S. Neto in all platforms, Instagram, LinkedIn, whatever. And also Metanoia Digital in LinkedIn. You can find us there. And I hope to see you guys again in the next show. In 2 weeks from now, we will be together with Chris Wildon, which you know, he used to be part of the Cisco innovation.
My good friend from Canada.
Exactly, and now he's working in a company that works with security and all this stuff. I'll be talking to him. So it's our next meeting here in Innovation Exchange, and I hope to see you guys there. Thank you very much, Leandro.
Thank you, guys. Have a good day. Thank you.
Family. And thank you for taking your time during this holiday.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.